For the first time in many years, the space station felt alive. The arrival of human ships had changed everything. Each ship was different, some large, some small, but all of them had come with the same message. You are not alone. In the central garden dome, children laughed as they played with small floating toys sent from Earth. Human and Kirilan scientists worked side by side in the labs, sharing ideas and learning from each other. The quiet station was now filled with voices, light and hope. Ambassador Reloth walked beside Commander James Keller through the halls. Your people are not like the others, Ryloth said. You don't act like visitors. You act like neighbors. James smiled. We believe friendship is stronger than fear. That's something we learned long ago on Earth. They stopped at a wide glass window overlooking space. Outside, dozens of human ships floated gently, forming a peaceful ring around the station. Some were painted with bright symbols, others with the flags of their cities. One had a banner written in several languages. Together, we shine. Varen joined them, holding a datapad. Ambassador, we've received a message from Colony. Solon 5, they saw the human ships here and are asking if help will come to them too. Ryloth looked at James, unsure. James nodded. Of course, if they need help, we'll send it. But your people are spread thin, Ryloth said softly. You are not an empire. You don't have fleets like the QAThe. James turned toward him. That's true. But humans have something else, connection. When one ship sends a message home, others respond. That's how we work. Not through power, but through unity. Later, in one of the meeting halls, a quiet celebration was held. Humans shared music from Earth, played on small handheld instruments. Kirilans offered food made from the glowing blue fruits that grew on their planet, a human artist painted. The view outside the station, stars, ships, and the soft rings of a nearby gas giant. A Kirilan child watched in amazement. Why are you painting it? The child asked. The artist smiled. Because moments like this are worth remembering. The child tilted his head. Even though nothing exploded or flew fast, especially because of that, the artist replied. Peace is more beautiful than speed. Meanwhile, on the far edge of the station, scientists from both species worked on a shared project. They were creating a new kind of sensor, one that could detect approaching ships from farther away, giving peaceful stations more time to respond. It's not for fighting, a human engineer said. It's for preparing. A Kirilan nodded. Yes, so we can choose the right path before fear chooses it for us. Back in the command room, Brand showed James and Ryloth a new report. A QAThe scout ship passed near Colony Solon 5. It didn't stop, but it scanned the area. James studied the screen. They're watching. They want to see how we react. Ryloth sighed. If we show fear, they will press harder. Then we won't show fear, James said calmly. We will show unity. He walked to the communication station. Let's send a message. Not just to humans. Not to everyone. They worked together on a short, clear message. It was broadcast across nearby systems. To all who hear this, the Kirilan people are not alone. Humanity stands with them. We do not come to fight. We come to help. And we invite others to do the same. You don't have to be strong to make a difference. You only have to care. Within hours, responses came from nearby planets and stations. Some offered supplies, some offered kind words, and one unexpected message came from a distant starport run by a quiet alien race called the Valari. We will send healers, we believe. In peace. Ryloth looked at the message, then at James. You're building something here? Without weapons? Without force? Just by being here. James nodded. Yes. Sometimes presence is power. When people see others standing together, they stop and think. And thinking leads to change. Later that night, Ryloth stood once again at the observation window. Below him, the planet glowed softly in the dark. Round the station, human ships blinked with steady light, symbol of quiet strength. Varen joined him. Do you think the QAThe will come here next? Ryloth didn't answer right away. He placed a hand on the glass and spoke gently. If they do, they will find something they do not understand. Not weapons, not threats, but something stronger. Varen tilted his head. What's that? People who choose kindness, Ryloth said. And far out in space, more ships began to move. Some were slow, some were small. But they came, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because someone had reminded them that helping is a choice. And that choice was growing brighter by the day. Asterisk days passed, and the space station became a place of harmony. Where there was once silence and worry, now there was laughter, music, and peaceful work. Humans and Chirellans shared meals, ideas, and stories from their worlds. More ships arrived each day, not just from Earth, but from other peaceful species, who heard the message. Inside the central hall, a new project was taking shape. Engineers from several species worked together, drawing plans on glowing screens. They were building a new kind of satellite, not one for war, but for connection. It would send messages of peace across many systems. Ryloth stood beside Commander James Keller, watching the team work. This is something I never expected, the ambassador said softly. Strangers becoming friends so quickly. James smiled. It's easy when the goal is the same. No one here wants power. They just want peace. Varen entered the room holding a small crystal. We just received a story transmission from Colony Erelon 3, he said. He built a small peace garden like the one here, he said. The idea came from us. Rillith took the crystal and played the message. On the screen, a group of young aliens were planting trees with soft blue leaves. One of them looked into the camera and said, "We believe peace can grow like a tree, one seed, one hand, one day at a time." That's the kind of future we dream about on Earth. But not all messages were joyful. Later, in the communication room, a quiet alert arrived. The QAThe ship had entered the outer edge of the system. It was not attacking, but observing. Watching. Ryloth stood beside James, reading the report. "They are trying to understand what's happening here," he said. James nodded. They expected silence. Fear. Instead, they see unity and kindness. That confuses them. "What will they do?" Varen asked softly. James replied calmly. "They'll wait. They want to see if this is real, if we will break apart." Ryloth folded his hands behind his back. "Then we must show them it is real." The next day, a peaceful assembly was held in the Garden Dome. People from different ships and planets came together. There were no speeches, no banners, just simple sharing. A Chirellan poet recited a poem about stars listening. Not a human child. Played a song on a small wooden flute. Scientists from a water-based world showed how their people built underwater homes. Each moment reminded them that peace was not one voice, but many. After the gathering, James spoke quietly to Ryloth. "We should visit Colony Solon 5. Ryloth looked surprised. "Leave the station?" James nodded. "They sent another message. They feel forgotten. I think we should show them that we still care." A small group prepared to travel. The ship was simple, painted with gentle colors and symbols of unity. Along with James and Ryloth, Varen and a few helpers joined the trip. As the ship left the station, everyone waved from the viewing deck. Children sent small floating lights into space. It wasn't a goodbye, it was a promise. The journey to Solon 5 took 2 days. Along the way they passed quiet moons, glowing clouds of gas, and a large peaceful space whale that moved slowly through the stars. When they reached the colony, they saw buildings shaped like shells resting gently on the surface. The colony had been quiet for weeks, but now people came out to greet the visitors. Their faces showed surprise and then joy. Ryloth stepped forward first. "Came to listen," he said simply. James added, "And to remind you that you're not alone." The colony shared their stories. They had felt fear when the QAThe ship flew nearby. But when they saw the lights of human ships near the Chirellan station, they felt a small light inside their hearts. "We didn't think anyone would come," a young teacher said. "But then, we saw your signal, and we believed again." The humans helped repair some broken solar towers. The Kirillons shared seeds for the Peace Garden. The children painted murals of stars and hands joined together. Before leaving, the colony gave a gift, a small bell carved from local stone. "Hang it on your ship," the leader said. "Let its sound remind you that kindness is remembered." On the return trip, James placed the bell in the main hallway. When the ship gently moved, it gave a soft, clear sound. Back at the station, people cheered as the ship returned, not because they brought power, but because they brought proof that peace could travel. That night, Ryloth stood by the window again. He listened to the soft ringing of the bell as the ship floated beside. The station, Varen came beside him. "Do you think this will last?" Ryloth looked out at the stars, calm and full of light. "If we keep choosing peace again and again, yes, I believe it will." And so with each day, the light of unity spread farther, not by force, not by fear, but by simple acts of care, one message, one hand at a time. The sound of the bell gently echoed through the space station's hallway. People paused to listen. It was soft, but clear like the memory of a kind voice. The bell from Colony Solon 5 now hung in a quiet spot near the main garden dome, reminding everyone that kindness was a gift to be shared. Ambassador Ryloth walked through the station, greeting visitors from different worlds. The place had become more than a safe zone. It was now a center of connection. Each day, new ships arrive, some curious, some cautious, but all hopeful. In the science wing, human engineers worked with Corellan scientists to finish the new peace satellite. Its purpose was simple: to send messages of unity across the stars, reaching colonies that felt alone or afraid. "It's almost ready," said Varen proudly. "And the signal it will send is not just in words. It will carry light, sound, and images. A message of peace in every form." James Keller nodded, to make sure it reaches even the quietest corners. In the main hall, a group of young students from Earth gathered with Corellan youth. Together, they created art on long, transparent sheets, images of stars, trees, ships, and smiling faces. They didn't speak the same language, but they laughed and painted side by side. One girl from Earth pointed at a painting of the space station. "That's us," she said. A Kirillon child nodded. "Yes, all of us." Later, a soft alert rang through the communication room. A ship from the QAThe Empire had entered orbit, not close, but just within range. It didn't send a threat. It didn't speak. It simply hovered, watching from a distance. Ryloth stood beside James as they looked at the readings. "They're still trying to understand," Ryloth said. "They've never seen something like this before," James replied. "Ships from dozens of places coming together without force." "You think they're afraid?" Varen asked. James thought for a moment. Maybe not afraid, maybe curious. Ryloth gave a small nod. "Then let's keep showing them what this really is." The peace satellite was finally ready. It was carefully lifted by a small shuttle and placed in high orbit. Soon as it was in position, the signal began. A soft light spread across nearby. Systems, followed by music, laughter, voices in many languages, and images of peaceful faces. One by one, colonies and ships far away received the message in one small station. An old miner listened to the music and smiled. On a moon with ice, fields, a lonely outpost turned on its screen and saw images of shared meals and gardens. On a slow-moving cargo ship, a crew of travelers paused their work and watched the signal with quiet wonder. Back at the station, messages of thanks started arriving. "Your light reached us. We thought we were forgotten. We're coming to visit." Ryloth looked at the growing list of replies. "It's working," he said softly. "They're responding." James stood beside him, watching the screen. The more people believe, the brighter it becomes. Later that day, a small ceremony was held in the garden dome. They called it the Day of First Light. It was a simple celebration, no fireworks, no loud music, just quiet joy. A tree was planted in the center of the dome. It came from Earth, but its roots had been mixed with soil from Kirilla, a symbol of two worlds growing together. Each person from every ship and planet placed a small stone around the tree. The stones were painted with messages, names, or just simple stars. One stone read, "We came in hope," another said, "Still listening." And one, placed by a quiet HFY observer who had come aboard without speaking much, simply said, "Watching, thinking." Reloth noticed the HFY visitor standing at the edge of the dome. He walked over and gave a respectful nod. "You are welcome here," Reloth said gently. The visitor didn't speak, but he placed a small silver object beside the tree and bowed his head. James watched from a distance. He didn't interrupt. He just smiled quietly. That evening, the station lights dimmed to show the stars. People sat together, telling stories. No one talked about fear. No one mentioned war. Instead, they spoke of gardens, music, food, and friendships. Varen sat beside a group of visitors and shared a funny story about a Kyrellan cooking mistake. A human child laughed and offered him a piece of chocolate. "It's sweet," she said. "Like your story?" He tasted it and smiled. "And I like it very much." As the stars blinked outside, the station felt more like a home than ever before. Ryloth looked around and whispered, This is what peace feels like." And James, standing nearby, simply nodded, because sometimes the strongest message is not shouted, shared in quiet moments, kind smiles, and small acts of care. And that message was spreading farther than anyone had ever imagined. The day of first light had passed, but its warmth remained. People still walked through the garden dome, pausing to see the tree at the center. Its leaves were beginning to stretch toward the glass roof, as if reaching for the stars. Around its base, the painted stones from many worlds formed a ring of color and meaning. Ryloth sat on a bench near the tree, listening to the gentle bell from the hallway. He had grown used to the peaceful rhythm of life on the station. But today, something new was happening. A special visitor was coming. A HFY diplomat had sent a message asking for a meeting. It was not a threat. It was not even a warning. It was simply a question. "May we speak?" Ryloth had never met a HFY in person. Their empire was known for strength, order, and control. But this message carried no pride. It carried curiosity. James Keller stood beside Ryloth as they waited in the meeting room. Sunlight from a nearby star filtered in through the wide window, casting soft shadows on the floor. "Do you think they will come in peace?" Ryloth asked quietly. James nodded. "I believe they've already started to." The door opened, and the HFY envoy entered. He was tall and strong-looking, with smooth gray skin and bright silver eyes. But his steps were calm, and his hands were open at his sides. "I am Envoy Talek," he said. "I thank you for receiving me." "You are welcome here," Ryloth replied. "We are honored by your visit." Talek looked around the room. He noticed the artwork on the walls, made by children from different worlds. He studied the quiet sounds of laughter coming from nearby rooms. Then he turned to James. "You are the human leader." James smiled gently. "Not a leader of all humans. Just a guest here like you." Talek seemed to consider this. "Your people confuse us. You came with no weapons, brought music, food, and stories. You gathered others, but not with power, with presence." "That's how we've learned to live," James said. "We don't always get it right, but we try to listen." Talek walked to the window. Outside, he saw the Peace satellite glowing. Softly in orbit, ships from many worlds moved gently around it, sharing supplies and information. "In our world," Talek said slowly, "we are taught that unity comes from strength, that peace must be protected by control. But this is something else." Ryloth joined him by the window. "This peace comes from trust. It grows slowly, like the tree in our dome, and it needs care. But once it grows, it gives shade to everyone." Talek turned to face them. "And if someone breaks that trust?" James looked at him calmly. "Then we don't give up. We rebuild. Again and again. It's what humans do. We fall, we stand, we reach out." Talek nodded once. I will report what I've seen. I cannot make promises, but I will speak of this truth." Before he left, Talek paused by the hallway and placed a small stone next to the bell. It was smooth and dark, with one simple word written on it in his language: listening. After the envoy left, the station felt even more hopeful. Word of the visit spread quickly. Ships that had stayed back in silence now reached out. Some offered to help build more satellites. Others asked to visit and learn. Varen stood with the team in the engineering section, building a second signal tower. "We will send it to the far systems," he said proudly. "2 places that haven't heard yet." A young volunteer from Earth added a small box of recorded messages, laughter, stories, and greetings from children. "Let them know they're not alone," she said. The garden dome became a place of stories. Every evening, someone told a tale from their world. Some stories were funny, others quiet and thoughtful. One night, a Kyrellan elder told a story about a bird that carried light between stars. "We are like that bird," she said, carrying hope from one branch to another. Ryloth often sat with James at the end of the day, watching the stars. "You've changed our way of thinking," Ryloth said. James shook his head. "We didn't change it. We just reminded you of something you already had." "What's that? Compassion?" James said. "That's been the courage to share it." That night, as the station lights dimmed, a new ship arrived. It carried no flag. It belonged to no known group. But it came with a message: "We saw your light. May we join you?" And the answer, as always, was simple: "Yes. Welcome." I guess. Here, in this quiet corner of the galaxy, peace was no longer a dream. It was becoming a way of life. One ship, one stone. The stars above shimmered like diamonds in the endless black sky. Far beyond Earth, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, a small space station floated near a dusty blue planet. The station was not built by humans. It belonged to the Kyrellans, a peaceful, alien race known for their science and wisdom. Inside the station, Ambassador Ryloth stood by the glass window, staring at the stars. His smooth skin glowed faintly under the soft lights. His people had watched the galaxy change for thousands of years, always choosing peace over war. But now, something was different. Something was coming. Behind him, the door opened with a soft hum. A younger Kirillin, Specialist Varen, entered holding a data tablet. "Ambassador," Varen said calmly, "the signal has been confirmed. It's real. A human vessel is approaching." Ryloth turned, his face thoughtful. "Just one ship?" Varen nodded. "Yes, only one. But the readings are unusual. Their technology is not like ours." "Not better, just different." Ryloth walked slowly to the central table where the hologram flickered to life. A sleek silver human ship appeared, heading toward the station. Its engines pulsed with quiet power, but there were no weapons visible. No shields, no sign of threat. "Have they sent a message?" Roth asked. "They sent only one sentence," Varen replied. Translated, it says, "We come in peace, but we will not watch harm fall on those who ask for help." Ryloth blinked. "Strange. They must have heard our call." Weeks ago, the Kirillans had sent a peaceful distress signal, not one for battle, but for help. A nearby empire, the QAThe, had taken over several colonies. The Kirillans had asked every known ally for aid. No one had responded until now. A single human ship answered. The ship soon entered orbit and sent a quiet ping. It waited respectfully, without forcing communication. Ryloth gave the order to let them dock. Inside the main hall of the station, a small group of Kirellans stood ready. The air was filled with quiet tension. No one had seen a human in person before. The door hissed open, and one human stepped out. He was tall, wearing a smooth black uniform with no visible rank. His eyes were calm, and his expression was polite. "I am Commander James Keller of Earth," he said clearly. "We received your signal." Ryloth stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Ryloth of the Kyrellan Union. Thank you for coming." "But we didn't expect only one ship." James smiled gently. "Sometimes one is all that's needed." Ryloth tilted his head. "You speak confidently, Commander." James nodded. "Because we've seen this before. When someone is hurting and no one else listens, humans listen. We might be far from perfect, But we don't ignore those in need. There was silence for a moment. Then Varen stepped forward. But the QAThe Empire is large. Their fleets are powerful. You came alone? James looked at the young Corellan and gave a small laugh. You're not the first to ask that. I understand your concern, but this ship is not alone in purpose. Ryloth watched him carefully. Then why come at all? What can one ship do? James' face grew serious, but still calm. Sometimes showing up is enough to make others stop and think. Sometimes just being there gives others hope. Ryloth thought for a long time. Then he said softly, Hope is powerful. Yes, James agreed. And humans carry it like a torch, even in the darkest space. They shared a quiet moment. Around them, the Curelons looked at each other. These humans were different, not threatening, not arrogant, just present. That night, Ryloth sat alone again, staring out at the stars. For the first time in many weeks, he felt a strange feeling in his chest. Not fear, not sadness. It was something close to belief. Maybe one ship could make a difference, and maybe, just maybe, humanity was not what the galaxy expected. There was something more. Asterisk the next morning. The space station felt different. The lights seemed brighter. The halls, once quiet and tense, now carried a calm hum of activity. Commander James Keller had brought not only his ship, but a kind of quiet confidence that many on the station had never felt before. Ambassador Ryloth met James in the Garden Dome, where plants from across the galaxy grew under soft artificial light. The two walked slowly among glowing leaves and floating petals. You said hope is powerful, Ryloth began. But hope doesn't stop warships. The QAThe Empire is already expanding. One of our colonies has gone silent. We fear the worst. James looked at the tall flowers swaying gently around them. I understand, he said. But humans have a saying, you don't need to match force with force. You only need to stand where no one else will. Ryloth stopped walking. But why would your people do that? You have no colonies here, no trade, no treaties. Why risk anything at all? James looked at him, calm and steady. Because we know what it feels like to be alone. A long time ago, Earth reached out into space. We thought we were small, unimportant. But then we met others. Some helped us, some feared us, and some ignored us. But we remembered every voice. That said, we believe in you. He continued. Now, when we see someone calling for help, we remember what it was like to hope someone would answer. Ryloth didn't speak for a while. Then he said quietly, most of the galaxy sees humans as unpredictable. James smiled slightly. We are. We build fast. We change faster. But that's not a weakness. It's just different. Later that day, the Kirillon Council held a special meeting. The leaders gathered around the glowing table. Holograms showed maps, star routes, and known QAThe positions. We are not a warrior race, one elder said. And the humans, they are few. Why should we trust their presence changes anything? Another elder replied. Because they came when no one else did. Ryloth stood before them. We asked for help and they answered. Not with threats, not with weapons, but with their presence. Still, one of the scientists said, we must prepare. If the QAThe come here next, we cannot stop them. James joined the council quietly, held a small device in his hand. I don't want to speak over your leaders, he said respectfully, but I asked for permission to share something. Ryloth nodded. Please. James touched the device. Appeared, showing a star field. Dots marked planets and ships. Then, one dot. The QAThe moved across the map, pushing others aside. This is what the QAThe want. Space, control, fear, James said. But they don't expect resistance, especially from those who stand together. He zoomed in. On the station, my ship carries tools, not weapons. But it also carries something more powerful. The room was quiet. I sent a signal yesterday, James said. 2 nearby human explorers. I didn't ask for war. I didn't ask for rescue. I simply said, "They need to know they are not alone." Ryloth leaned forward. "And did anyone answer?" James tapped the device again. Tiny dots began to appear around the edges of the hologram. At first, just a few. Then more, then dozens. Each one marked with the symbol of a human vessel. Science ships, trade ships, medical teams, small, quiet, but present. "They're not warships," James said. "But they came anyway." The room was silent. Then Varen whispered, "Why?" James answered simply, "Because they care." The Kurellan leaders stared at the growing light of the human ships. They were not large. They were not built to fight. But they came not because they had to, but because they chose to. That evening, the station's communication system lit up with messages. A human science ship asked, "Do you need help repairing sensors?" A medical team sent, "We have supplies." "Can we assist your healers?" A group of human students messaged. "We brought books and stories from Earth. Maybe your children would like them." And suddenly the stars didn't feel so dark anymore. The Kurellans gathered at the viewing deck. One by one, the human ships came into view, forming a peaceful arc around the station. They didn't bring weapons. They brought light. Ryloth looked at James, his voice quiet. "You didn't come to fight, did you?" James shook his head. "No, we came to remind the galaxy. Kindness is not weakness. Unity is not surrender. And one voice can start a chorus." For the first time in many years, Ryloth smiled. Maybe the Drekkathai wouldn't understand what was happening, but the Kurellans did. Hope had arrived. The space station had grown busy with visitors from many worlds. New ships arrived every day, some bearing gifts, others bringing stories and music. The peaceful community felt stronger, connected by shared hopes and gentle care. Ambassador Ryloth walked through the bustling halls, smiling as he greeted old friends and new. He noticed how humans and aliens worked together, building, learning, and helping one another. The station was no longer just a refuge. It was a symbol of light in the dark. One morning, Ryloth received a message. It was from a distant colony, called Veternine. The message was simple but urgent. "We hear your light. We need your help to grow our peace." Ryloth called James Keller immediately. "The colony sounds hopeful, but they seem unsure." James nodded. "Let's send a team. We should visit them soon." A small group prepared for the journey, carrying tools, seeds for gardens, books, and gifts. As the ship left the station, people gathered to watch. Children waved small flags and a soft song played in the garden dome. The trip to Veternine was quiet but hopeful. The crew shared stories and plans. They talked about how peace was not something given, but something grown, like the gardens they would plant. When they arrived, Veternine looked different from other colonies. Its buildings were spread apart, and its people were cautious but kind. They welcomed the visitors with warm smiles, though some eyes still showed worry. The visitors learned why. Veternine had been through hard times. They had faced fear and doubt, but seeing the peace satellite's light had brought hope back. Together, the teams worked to build a new garden at the colony's center. They planted trees and flowers. Children painted murals of stars and hands joined together. A local elder spoke quietly to Ryloth. "Your light reached us when we were ready to give up. Now we feel a new beginning." James smiled. Peace grows slowly with many hands. Days passed, and the colony's spirit lifted. Messages went out, inviting others to join in the peace. Back at the station, Ryloth and James watched the stars. Ships from many species moved gently through space, sharing news, supplies, and stories. Varen joined them, holding a small device. "The peace satellite has reached over 50 systems now," he said proudly. "More are listening." Ryloth nodded. "It's more than a signal, it's a promise." Suddenly a message came from the Drekkathai Empire again. This time it was different, not a warning or threat. It was an invitation. Come to speak. Learn. Ryloth and James looked at each other. The moment they had hoped for was here. The meeting was held on neutral ground, a quiet space station far from any empire's reach. Representatives from the QAThe, Kirillons, humans, and other species gathered together. The air was tense, but respectful. Many wondered if peace could truly come. Envoy Talek from the QAThe spoke first. "We have watched your light grow. It challenges what we believed about strength," Ryloth replied. "Peace is not weakness, it is courage." James added, "It is the choice to listen and to care." The meeting lasted many hours. Ideas were shared, questions asked. Slowly, walls began to lower. When the talks ended, the QAThe representatives agreed to work together, not against each other. Back on the station, people celebrated quietly. It was not a victory of war, but a victory of hope. Ryloth smiled as he watched the stars. "We began with one ship." James nodded, and now many shine together. The future was still unknown. But with each new day, peace grew stronger, and that was enough. Asterisk, the peaceful meeting had ended. But its effects were only beginning. Across the stars, a new feeling spread, a feeling of hope and possibility. Back at the space station, Ambassador Ryloth stood in the garden dome. The tree they had planted long ago was now tall and strong. Its leaves rustled softly in the gentle breeze created by the station's air systems. Around its roots, the painted stones from many worlds glowed faintly under the light. Ryloth smiled quietly. So much had changed since the first human ship arrived. What had started as a single act of kindness had grown into a momentum movement. Of peace, Commander James Keller walked beside him. "We didn't know what to expect when we came here," James said softly. "But I think we've shown that even one ship can make a difference." Ryloth nodded. "Yes, and that difference can grow like a tree, strong and wide, giving shade to many." Outside the station, ships from many different species flew together in a quiet procession. Some carried goods to share. Others brought new friends, moved not as armies, but as neighbors. Inside the station, the community had grown closer. Humans, Kirillons, QAThe, and many others worked side by side, learning and helping each other in one room. Children from different planets played games that mixed their languages and customs. Their laughter was a clear sound, a promise of a peaceful future. One day, a message arrived from a distant world. It was a request for help, not for war, but for healing. A planet far away was rebuilding after years of isolation. James and Ryloth prepared a team to go. They packed medical supplies, seeds for gardens, books, music. Before they left, Ryloth gathered everyone in the garden dome. "We go not as conquerors or rulers," he said, "but as friends. We carry with us hope, kindness, and a promise that no one should face the stars alone." James added, "And that promise is the strongest force in the galaxy." The team departed, their ship shining under the station lights. People watched as it moved out into the dark, carrying a message of peace as the ship traveled. The Peace satellite continued to send light and song to the far reaches of space. It reached places no one had ever reached before. In quiet corners of the galaxy, lonely planets and small stations turned on their screens and listened. They saw images of gardens, hands joined together, and stars shining bright, and they felt something they had not felt in a long time. Hope, back on the station. Life continued. New projects began. New friendships formed. The peaceful community had become a beacon, shining across the galaxy. One evening, Ryloth stood alone by the window. The stars stretched endlessly, full of possibility. He thought of the journey that had begun with one ship, one simple choice to answer a call for help, and he knew the future would be bright, as long as kindness kept traveling through the stars, because peace was not just a dream, it was a choice that anyone could make, and together they had made it.